usually not a fan of personalizing things, and I don't really want to personalize too much in this video. But I do want to talk about a topic, and I do think it's related to MGTOW. I want to talk about chronic illness and how it relates to MGTOW and your interaction with the world. Now, my personal chronic illness is one that people don't even call an illness often, but I have chronic insomnia. I've had it for almost 21 years now, 20 years. It comes and goes in varying degrees. For the past week, I've been running on approximately 2 to 3 hours of sleep for a night, so that's for 7 days in a row. Sometimes it's better, but I never get more than 5 hours of sleep, and I haven't had 6 or 7 or 8 or anything above that since I was about 16 or thereabouts. And, well, in any event, why I consider it an illness, well, as if just to clarify, anyone who's gone a couple of nights with no or little sleep, then multiply it by weeks, months, years, you get the picture. It adds up, and then you have a sleep deficit, and you can never really catch up. And I guess it's because I have these ups and downs with it. Sometimes I'll get 5, sometimes it'll be nothing, sometimes it'll be 2, 3. I'm kind of in a low middle phase right now. That I'm noticing severe impairment in my physical activities and my ability to just think clearly. And I don't want to get too personal about that, but I consider it an illness. And, if you've tried out yourself, I'm not recommending it, and see if you don't consider it an illness. I mean, it's basically living with never being at your optimal, be it writing, speaking, physical exercise, gaming, learning, studying, whatever it is. When you're a chronic insomniac, you are not at your peak ever. And it's been shown that it cuts down on years of your life. So I'm going to have a shortened lifespan as a result of that. Probably due to other things too, but whatever. The problem, of course, is that you really can't, in this case, and as make a reference to another kind of chronic disability or illness, you can't really do anything about it. I mean, I knew a guy, I've lost contact for a long time. He's a paraplegic. He lost, he lost basically legs down. And the thing is, he wasn't always. It happened in an accident, and so he knew what it was like. Just like I kind of dimly remember, that's been such a long time, what it's like to be a normal human being cognitively and sleep-wise. And what happens is you go into a cycle, and you spend a lot of time wondering, if only I were at 100%, but that's just not the way it is, and it never will be. For the most part, you make your peace with it. I'm pretty good at coming to terms with reality. You might remember my video, Coming to Terms with Reality. So I don't want to dwell on, if only I could sleep like a normal human being. I mean, that's never going to happen. I'm gonna die of chronic insomniac. And just for the record, before anyone says, well, have you tried this or that? And don't waste your breath. It's not because I don't appreciate concern. It's just that I've had this for over 20 years. I spent tens of thousands of dollars in treatment, different kinds of treatment, from sleep studies, sleep laboratories, to medications and whatever. Nothing works. Nothing works. People don't understand. Doctors, the medical community doesn't really understand sleep that well, believe it or not. So whatever. I didn't want to I just want a little background. Now, how this relates to MGTOW? Well, if you have any kind of chronic illness or disability, the simple fact is that stress, no matter what its source might be, is going to exacerbate it and make it worse. It doesn't matter whether it's a physical thing, like you have a messed up spine, or you have arthritis, or chronic headaches, or whatever. Especially with insomnia, chronic insomnia, any kind of stress is going to noticeably make it worse. And I think one thing, and Barbara Ross talked about this, one thing about MGTOW that's important to remember is take care of your health. Men are just naturally disinclined not to take care of their health, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I don't think it's some sort of social conspiracy that men are discouraged from it. It's just that it's evolution, it's biology in large measure. To show weakness as a man, physical weakness, is to acknowledge that you might need help, and someone who needs help is not someone who's able to efficiently climb the dominance hierarchy. Women who climb no such higher, they have a beauty hierarchy, but beauty has nothing to do with your performance or competence. they don't need to worry about. It's one of the reasons why they don't, and they're very concerned with themselves. Everyone's concerned with women's health and well-being. But a man, quite literally on a subconscious level, and I think on an instinctive level, is not going to be inclined to that, because that's going to be a diminishment, a diminution of his rank, effectively. Whether, I mean, these rankings are abstract, but he'll see himself in a lesser light, and he believes, probably correctly, that the outside world will see himself in a lesser light as well, because, well, yeah, he's taking time off from work because he's ill, or he's taking care of himself, or what have you. I mean, the rare moments you see where a woman will say, "Take care of yourself." It's usually a wife or something who's worried that her bills won't get paid anymore. You have to take care of yourself, or perhaps direct kinsman, brother, sister, the blood bonds kicking in there. But by and large, men don't take care of themselves, and as a consequence, they suffer from aggravated health issues of all sorts. So the good thing, and I think the important one, very important and not often talked about aspect of MGTOW, of course, is that you're at least, when you're withdrawal from the world to a certain extent, to all varying degrees. I admit I'm quite a hermetic being, some compare me to I think Barbarossa is much more involved in the world. I think it's good in some ways. I wish I could be, but that just doesn't suit my nature. I've always been hermetic in nature. But the simple fact, on some level, we've withdrawn a fair bit from the world. And in ceasing the kind of mindless competition that most of us have engaged in the past, we're actually giving ourselves a great benefit. Believe it or not, as bad as my insomnia can get, it was a lot, and, add the lot in there 100 times worse back in the day. Thinking of several examples. One, when I was in a relationship, one of my ex-wives with a borderline syndrome, borderline personality disorder person. Wow, I wouldn't say I was running on. I don't know what I was running. I was, basically just running on hormones for 2 or 3 days. For 3 days, 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then 3 days. Then, very particularly stressful job. I used to work where I was working 7 days a week, usually 6 to 7 days a week, just. And now, of course, long after that, you just realize, there's no point to that. These things aggravated my insomnia, my illness, a great deal. And the simple fact is, it's impossible to avoid stress in life for the most part, but certainly you can minimize it and lessen it to a large degree by taking certain measures. And this is where MGTOW kicks in. It's so important to take care of your health, and stress, I think, of all sorts, really can. I'm not saying there's a mystic connection here, but stress just puts their body into a state of shock. When I got my tumor, I'd never had a tumor before in my life. I was under immense stress. It was I was having problems with my last ex-wife. I was finishing up my last master's dissertation, and I was looking for a new position for work simultaneously, and I was just really stressed out years ago. And all of a sudden, I had this fucking lump in my throat, and what the hell is this? I'm convinced that no matter what the source, stress can have just a wide variety of consequences on your health. Never mind the insomnia in my case. So I've mentioned this before in terms of kryptonite and your reaction to women, but I think it's important really to get a very good idea of how well you can gauge your ability as an individual to handle stress. My impression of, say, Barbarossa is someone who handles stress very, very well. He's working, as far as I know, overtime all the time. He's pursuing his relationship or whatever on the side, which he mentioned in his video, and doing all this stuff. That would be way too much for me. I know I couldn't handle that well, and my sleep would get even worse. So this is something, part of MGTOW, of course, in the process of MGTOW, which is a never-ending process of understanding and self-recognition and self-acknowledgement. Self-acknowledgement, of course, being distinguished from self-recognition. Recognition, of course, that you have a problem. Acknowledging it is this internalization I've talked about. Know thyself. In this case, know your ability to cope with stress. I know myself pretty well by now. I mean, I know, of course, there are going to be situations that are unavoidable that are going to cause me stress and exacerbate my illness. But that said, people often ask me, why people acquaintances, why don't you, start us? Why don't you get back in translation? Why don't you get back to this? Why don't you become a proofreader again? Why don't you? Well, for one reason, stress. I mean, that's actually the major reason, apart from not being very fun. I mean, translation itself it's a lot of work for very poor pay, and basically the remuneration is shit, and you end up working long hours and working your ass off, and you need to be competent and know what you're doing on multiple levels for very very little in return. Working weird hours because you have to deliver on a certain date at a certain time. I spent a lot of money getting an education towards that, and I wouldn't say it was all for nothing. Certainly, I learned a great deal, and the degree is going to be valuable just in terms of its prestige for the future. But yeah, I learned, hey, that is not something I can do without having health consequences and health problems. And if you're young, or not even young, I'm not young, I'm middle aged, it's important to be able to gauge that, and it might be, particularly if you're young and you want to climb, the hierarchy of something to get a better position, it may not be worth it. The juice might not be worth the squeeze, as Barbarossa has often said in this regard. So learning to gauge your own personal stress levels with regards to the environment, I think is important, maybe even crucial to being a man going your own way. Women don't need to worry about that. They got the whole world taking care of them. If they're stressed out, they'll be, take off from work themselves. People will take care of them. They got the whole healthcare industry looking after them. You're on your own. I mean, you're all alone out there. And if you don't watch out for yourself and your health, nobody else is going to. Whether it's seeing the doctor or noticing that you've been feeling stressed out and whatever your health problem might be. Stress will make it worse, guaranteed. So I didn't want to talk too much about this, but it is very important as a MGTOW to learn your stress, mental, emotional, physical stress levels, and learn to keep them at bay, or at the very least minimize them. And that includes, there might be a job you enjoy doing, but it's really stressful. It might not be worth it. So you never know. But this is all the part of the process of getting to know yourself, becoming acquainted with yourself, becoming completely familiar, internalizing and acknowledging these things, and losing the factor of shame. Hey, if if you're limited, if you have a physical disability or a chronic illness, that's just the way it is. You have to accept it, and then you have to, find the best solution for yourself. I'm still trying career-wise to find a solution. I think, hey, it's never going to happen. If I could actually make a YouTube career of some sort, that would be a really good compromise for me. And I could, I like producing video content, be it gaming or of the MGTOW or thinking sort. I put thinking sort, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think in the next half year to year, I'll probably go back to teaching, which was kind of a in between being a proofreader, translator, and some other shit I've done. But sometimes you have to compromise. But I know at least what certain things that I'm not going to be doing. And as good a translator as I used to be, at least, that is just not something I want to do. Too much stress, too much pressure, and it just negatively affects me. So know thyself, know thy stress levels, and take care of yourself. Really, really important. I think it's a key factor in being MGTOW. And we have often talk about the psychological awareness, the cognitive awareness, the scientific, and for lack of a better word, philosophical awareness. All very important stuff. But also equally important is taking care of your physical and mental well-being with regards to the environment, work, women, everything, right? Important message, I think, even if it's a simple one. But don't neglect to take care of yourself. Really important. So anyway, everyone take care, and as always, thanks for watching. Best wishes.